Tonight's clip is explosive because what should have been a straightforward transparency review is now looking, at least from Jamie Raskin's account, like a full-blown institutional failure. A chaotic DOJ satellite office setup, sensitive Epstein files allegedly mishandled, critical names seemingly shielded while other protections appear dangerously inconsistent, and a release process that raises serious questions about whether this was incompetence, damage control, or something even worse. And while the cameras roll, you can almost see the panic. Officials scrambling, redactions shielding the wrong people, the whole machine looking like it's trying to bury the truth under confusion, delay, and procedural smoke. If Raskin is right, this is not just bureaucratic sloppiness, it's a credibility crisis for the DOJ, a transparency scandal, and another example of power protecting itself when the public demands answers. In just a moment, Jamie Raskin is about to lay out details that could blow this story wide open, so stay with me. And if you want more real breakdowns like this, like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Well, everybody, I've just gotten back from this Department of Justice satellite office, a seemingly otherwise desolate facility where they've set up some offices and some computers for us to go and review the Epstein files. I think there were 4 computers in the room that I was in. I was at one of the computers. Now, we're there because the members of the Judiciary Committee are very concerned because the most emphatic provision in the Epstein Files Transparency Act was that none of the survivors' privacy be compromised in any way. And we wanted to make sure that their names would be redacted and all personal identifying information would be redacted. But there are hundreds and hundreds of pages in the Epstein files that were recently released where identifying information about victims is right there, including people's names. So that was a dramatic departure from the demands of the statute. But then conversely, we didn't want to see any redactions of the names of co-conspirators, accomplices, enablers, abusers, rapists, simply to spare them potential embarrassment, political sensitivity, or disgrace of some kind. And yet, nonetheless, the Epstein file documents that were released are filled with redactions of names and information about people who clearly are not victims and may fall into that other category. So I went over there and I was able to determine, at least I believe, that there were tons of completely unnecessary redactions in addition to the failure to redact the names of victims, and so that's troubling to us.
Did you see the names of any potential co-conspirators that were redacted?
Well, I saw the names of lots of people who were redacted for mysterious or baffling or inscrutable reasons.
Are any of them well-known individuals?
For example, Mr. Wexner, his name was redacted from a government document, and I couldn't understand the logic of that. He was not a victim, and his name has appeared other places. Now, the Department of Justice has not sent forth its so-called privilege log, so it's not explained yet why there might be certain redactions that have been made. I saw one document which was an email that was sent by Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, which was the forward of an email that he had received from some of his lawyers, giving an account of a conversation between Epstein lawyers and Trump lawyers and others about what had taken place during that 2009 period. It was during the period of the 2009 investigation. And Epstein's lawyers synopsized and quoted Trump as saying that that Jeffrey Epstein was not a member of his club at Mar-a-Lago, but he was a guest at Mar-a-Lago, and he had never been asked to leave. And that was redacted for some indeterminate, inscrutable reason. I know it seems to be at odds with some things that President Trump has been saying recently about how he had kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club or asked him to leave, and this was at least one report that appears to contradict it.
What did you see specific to President Trump or President Clinton, and were there specific redactions to them?
Well, I just gave an example of one redaction related to President Trump. I did not see any redactions related to President Clinton.
What was the smoking gun in all this?
Well, I don't. Here's the thing: the Department of Justice is under orders from Congress to release the entire Epstein file. They released 3.5 million documents, and they've withheld 3 million documents. So about half of all the documents have not been released yet. Of the 3.5 million documents that have been released, I probably had the opportunity to review maybe 30 or 40 of them. Okay, so this is going to be an extremely time-consuming and painstaking process. The Attorney General and the Department of Justice have said that this process was something that was completed by them back in July. These materials could have been released long ago, but they're just being released now. And if every member of Congress who voted for the discharge petition, if all 217 of us spent every waking hour over at the Department of Justice, it would still take us months to get through all of those documents. And there are only 4 computers now, so they would certainly need to get a couple hundred more computers for all of the members. But the point is that there is no way before Attorney General Bondi arrives on Wednesday that we're going to have the opportunity to go through every redaction in order to ask thorough questions.
I think that's the connection, that they held up releasing this so that everybody wouldn't be as thoroughly prepared for her testimony Wednesday.
No, I think that the Department of Justice has been in a cover-up mode for many months and has been trying to sweep the entire thing under the rug. And the more deeply that I get into it, because obviously our colleagues on the Oversight Committee have taken the lead, but judiciary plays a very important role because we oversee the Department of Justice. But the more that I've gotten into it, the more I believe that the survivors here, the victims who are now active citizens for justice, really are leading the way. And we need to be having hearings with the survivors to hear from them about their experiences so they can explain what happened and so they can begin to set forth a theory of what took place. We need to be investigating the money. We need to be investigating the organizational hierarchy. There's no way you run a $1 billion international child sex trafficking ring with just 2 people committing crimes, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. No way. It doesn't work like that. So we need to figure out what other conspiracies were involved, what other co-conspirators were involved. And I really do believe that listening to the survivors is going to be our pathway through this nightmare.
What is the next step for Democrats to take? You say there are obviously millions of documents, 4 computers. What is the next step?
And let's be absolutely clear, if even half of what was described in this hearing room chaos is true, then this is not a minor paperwork mistake. It is a disgrace. The public was told to expect transparency, accountability, and respect for victims, and instead what we're seeing looks like confusion, selective secrecy, and a system that too often protects power first and answers later. That is exactly why videos like this matter, because when institutions start hiding behind procedure, delay, and carefully managed access, the only thing left is public pressure. And public pressure only works when people are paying attention. So no, we are not going to shrug and move on. We are not going to let another story this serious get buried under distractions, partisan spin, or media amnesia. If the DOJ mishandled these files, the public deserves to know. If information was concealed, the public deserves to know. If victims were failed while politically sensitive names were protected, the public deserves to know. That is not outrage content. That is basic accountability in a functioning democracy. And this is where you come in. If you want more coverage that cuts through the excuses, more breakdowns that actually follow the facts, and more pressure on the people who think they can outweight the public, then support this channel right now. Hit like so this video gets pushed to more viewers. Subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because the more voices speak up, the harder it becomes for anyone to sweep this under the rug. Stay loud, stay alert, and stay locked in, because this story is not over, and we're going to keep following every detail.